Welcome to the Stringjoy Show. I am Ryan. You know, every day our customer service team fields tons and tons of questions, not just about strings, but about guitars in general. So we partnered with Overman Guitars in St. Paul, Minnesota to field some of these questions and get actual expert advice. And this series is called, I Don't Know, Let's Ask a Luthier. So one of the questions that we get sent more than anything else is about string breakage. Now, we're not talking about the kind of string breakage where you're bending up a step and a half and you snap a string. That happens. But irregular string breakage.
That is a very common question here, and I get a lot of guitars in with the same issues. The main culprits are like your saddles, or on a Tunomatic, again, saddles. It could be breaking down there. It can be breaking up at the tuning posts. Sometimes it breaks in the trem block itself. Other times it's at the nut. But we're gonna go over to the bench and we're gonna go over all that.
Cool.
All right, so let's say that you are breaking strings a lot at your bridge. Here we have a Strat bridge, and a string breakage down here would typically look like you'd have a short amount of string sticking out here, or just a very small amount sticking up over the saddle. That usually means that there's something going on with one of these saddles or with the actual trem block. So what I typically do is I'll take the strings off, and you're looking at all your saddles individually, and you're gonna wanna look for what I call a burr, like maybe a sharp string groove, something that the string is falling into or making contact with that is causing the break. So sometimes it is gonna be like pretty obvious. You'll see like maybe a chunk of metal just like right here, like something from the machining process or from the use of the guitar a lot, or like changing your gauges, stuff like that. Other times you'll find like a string groove on a saddle like this, kind of a improper channel cut on this one. Someone used a file or something in there. You're gonna wanna look for something like that. You can use a magnifying lens or a loop. Loops are really affordable and are fun to use to help you see these burrs on the saddle. So, in this scenario, we're breaking a lot on the high E, and it's breaking at the saddle somewhere, or so we think. There are a few ways to take down an existing burr or like an improper channel. One way is you can use a set of needle files, and you want to be like really gentle with these, and you can like lightly just go through the file like that, or go through the saddle like that with the file. Another way you can do it is you can actually take sandpaper, and I wouldn't use anything lower grit than like 220. I'd probably start at 220 or 320, and you can fold it in half just like that. And you can just run it over the top. And then I would want to use like 400 and 600 after that just to smooth it out. The way I prefer, I actually use Mitchell's. This is an abrasive cord. It mimics a string, which is really nice. It's really handy. It lasts forever. I've had this roll for a few years now. And basically you just want to cut a piece of this. I usually go, I don't know, like 6 inches long or so. And we are going to mimic what a string would do in that channel. So I'll typically flip the guitar over, act like I'm changing the strings, thread it through like that, and then you just want to floss the top of the saddle. So you just want to go like this. And with the abrasive cord, what you want to do is you want to make sure you use a gauge of cord that is closely related to the gauge of string, but always a little bit bigger. That way you're going to get any of the existing burrs or anything. It's not like, you don't want to go less than what the string gauge would be, because you might just be going over the burr and missing it. But yeah, you just go like this. I usually do this for about 30 seconds or a minute. Then I take it out. And you can see like there's a little bit of residue and stuff from where I removed, you know, some pieces of that channel, but it basically just smooths it out and, you know, ensures that there's no existing burr right there where the string makes contact with the saddle. Another way, like let's say you've done that and you're still breaking strings and it's always down here. what I'll actually do is take the saddles off and remove the trem block. And a lot of times there's a burr right up here where the block meets the saddles and the body. This one actually has a few existing burrs. I don't know if we can focus on that, but there's one right there. And you just do the same thing again. Just thread this through, and then you're gonna just go back and forth. And you can kind of see, here, I'll do this really quick down here. You can kind of see there's a little bit of dust and stuff from the metal, but basically it smooths it out. A lot of times you can feel them with your fingernail, like my fingernail catches, so I know there's a burr there. But yeah, that's basically what you would want to do if you're having a lot of string breaking issues down at your bridge. This example being on a Strat bridge. All right, in this example, we have a Tunomatic bridge. Let's say that you're breaking strings down here often. Again, it would look like a broken string would probably be cut like somewhere in here, or maybe like right behind the saddle. Either way, what I would do is you can slack your string, and you're gonna wanna look for burrs on top of this. An easy way to do this is, again, with your fingernail, just sort of feel it. If it's catching, or like if it feels like it's sharp, you probably have a sharp saddle, and that's why this area is causing breakage. For this particular bridge, again, you can use the same setup as I did before. You could use a small file. You could use sandpaper, folded in half. Again, just go over the top lightly. What I like to do on a Tunomatic though actually is use my nut slotting files. And if you have the V-notched files, those work fine, but if you have round edged files, those are preferable. So let's say on this I have it set up for 10 to 52. I'm gonna use either a 10 or like a 16 or a 12, and you're just gonna put it in the channel and you're gonna go really light. Because if you go too hard on this, you'll actually widen or deepen the channel, and that will screw up your radius. So you're just gonna wanna go nice and light. I can feel there's a little of resistance. I'm not gonna go too crazy. So that feels a little less sharp. And again, I would follow up with some Mitchell's abrasive here. This is a gauge that is closely related to an E string, and you're just gonna wanna floss the top of that saddle. Just like that. And that's what you would do. I would stress when you're using the nut slotting files on here, do not put too much pressure because you don't wanna change that radius. So just go very lightly, and you should be able to see if it's like smoothing out. And after you use those files, you might want to run a little 400 or 600 folded through there. If the sandpaper folded is too big for the actual channel, then again, this stuff is a lifesaver. Yeah, so that would be if you're breaking down here on a Tunomatic style bridge. For another example, let's talk about if you're breaking strings constantly at your tuning post. If it's broken up here, chances are it'll look like that. It'll leave you just like a tiny little piece of string. And what I've found up here is that oftentimes where the string enters the post, there's a burr on the post. So I'm just gonna remove this really quick. What you wanna do is just, again, use your finger or your fingernail and feel this post. And if it's a sharp burr, you're gonna be able to feel it, like your nail will catch, something will catch. You'll feel just a little bit of resistance there. So for these, I usually just use this stuff again because it's the easiest to get in and out of there and floss it. You'll wanna use a smaller size, which we can use this for now for this example. But yeah, use an abrasive cord that corresponds to this size of the post. And you're just gonna wanna floss it. That's one way to do it. Another way is with a needle file like this. And you're just gonna wanna lightly file there, and then I always file like crossways on it, like nice and light on both sides. And then for the tuning posts, no matter what I do, like if I use the files or the abrasive cord, I will follow up with some sandpaper. So fold that, and then you're just gonna wanna lightly, I just call it like kissing the post a little bit. You're gonna wanna do that and go up to like 400 or 600 grit when you're done. Sometimes after that, I'll use a little bit of like these micro mesh pads. Like these are great because you're not gonna damage the finish or anything, and it's not gonna damage the post obviously, but yeah, you're just gonna, and you can already feel that that's a lot smoother. I would do that on all of them unless, you know, you're probably not breaking at the post that much on your bass strings, but on your treble strings, it's fine to just hit all of them if you're breaking up here. If you're breaking right here at the nut, you're gonna wanna make sure that your nut slots are filed correctly. If you have a nut slot that is way too small for the strings that you're using, that can cause pinching and tension, and it can snap there. And sometimes vice versa, like if the slot is huge and you've got like a little string in there floating around and your nut edges are sharp, that can cause breakage as well. It could be the nut itself. There are a few other variables there, but we are going to cover in the future how to properly slot your nut and make sure that your heights are correct and your channels are correct and everything's okay up there. In this example, we have a Fender 6-in-line headstock. Let's say you're experiencing string breakage up here. Again, you want to like look at the saddle, feel it with your fingers, see if there are like any sharp points. All of these are pretty sharp. These are the original tuners. It's pretty old. So what I would do with these, I would use this stuff again. And you basically just want to floss this slot. And you want to just like get down in there and sort of try to like, you know, replicate like what a string would do in the saddle, like the breaking points and stuff. That should take care of it. And then you can either follow up with like 400 or 600 sandpaper, do the same thing like that, or you can just do sandpaper if you don't have the Mitchells. That should take care of these types of tuners. Sometimes on your string tree, you have like a really sharp burr, and if it's breaking like in this area, that's generally what's causing it. I've had some of these where there's notches under there, there's rust or corrosion, and there's like sharp points that have like cut my fingers before. So for these, I usually take them off the neck and then flip them upside down, file them. If you don't want to do that, you can use the abrasive cord underneath and just sort of hold it with one finger and floss it like that. And that's probably all you would have to do for those. This is usually softer material than this, so it's a good way if you're breaking strings at your string trees.
So that's it for us here. I'd like to thank Wyatt Overman at Overman Guitars for helping us out here. We're always looking for more questions. Don't be shy. So if you have any more questions, feel free to throw those down in the comments. Also, make sure to sign up for the Stringjoy email list. There's tons and tons of useful information there delivered to your inbox weekly. So until then, I'll see you when I see ya.
Thank you.